All right, so let's start off talking about Death of a Family, which is obviously a really big event coming up. What can fans look forward to with that?
Well, we really wanted to do something where the Joker had a very particular axe to grind and wanted to say to Batman, this is why I love you and why I've always loved you and why you love me more than you love them. And don't you wish we could go back to it being just the two of us? And in that way, it gives us an opportunity to have Joker not just sort of come after the family and Batman in ways that you never have seen before, in the most vicious possible ways, but also to sort of give an homage to all of the stuff that he's done with Batman. So you're going to see references to Joker Fish, Five-Way Revenge, Killing Joke, I mean, you know, Death in the Family, everything that's like a seminal Joker story that we could stuff in there, we've tried to. So we wanted it to be a story that really essentially is about the relationship between Bruce and the Joker, you know, intimately and deeply, and have it be something that matters in that way, you know?
And is it challenging for you when you're writing a crossover that big that you're not writing every part of? You have to collaborate with, you know, a bunch of different writers. How involved do you all get with each other, and what are the challenges in putting something that big together?
That's a good question. I mean, there are challenges, but the honest truth is there are two options when you want to do a story like that. And one is for me to write those characters into my book and then just make sure the other books don't interfere or don't, you know, conflict with it, like Red Robin isn't in space when he's in Gotham. Or the option number two essentially is to accept that those guys and girls that write those books know those characters better than I do, write them better than I do, and instead to be inspired by them writing independent books with the Joker in them. And I always opt for number two, the same with Night of the Owls, where the idea was to say, the challenge is, Joker's coming after your character, he's watched everything over the last year, he can kill anybody, do anything, to any supporting cast, anything you want, and go crazy. Make the Joker try to prove that your character is worth nothing. And in that way, the stories that they've come up with, Gale, Pete Tomasi, Kyle and Nightwing, John Layman and Detective, Anna Senti and Catwoman, I mean, one after another, Scott Lobdell and Red Hood, they're so terrifying and good because they know those characters so deeply that for me, it's not really a matter of overlooking them or coordinating. The only thing that I try and do is just make sure that the Joker isn't in two places at once, or at the same time that he isn't acting in a way that's incoherent given the way he acts, or that conflicts, or, you know, that isn't consistent somehow with how he acts in another book. And that's all I do, meaning like everything else is fair game. So the stuff they've come up with inspires me to want to write better. I can't tell you how awesome these issues are coming up by my friends, the Bat Family writers.
Now, you know, you recently launched Talon, which is obviously a spin-off from the Night of the Owls, and it's a pretty high-profile launch. You know, his own book, an ongoing. What's really? How did that kind of come about, and what are we looking forward to with that book?
Well, with that, honestly, the idea was they asked me at DC if I had an idea for a spin-off from Court of the Owls because it was relatively, you know, successful and stuff, and what happened was I told them I really didn't, you know, that I had a lot of information about the Owls we didn't get to deal with, but that as a story I didn't really have one. And my buddy James, who's a former student of mine who was working on the backups of Batman with me, told me, he's like, well, I kind of have an idea for it. And I was like, okay, what is it? But I don't think I'm going to like it no matter what it is. And he told me, and I loved it. And I was like, you know what? If I could write that series, I would. And congrats on coming up with a great idea. I'm proud of you. Rock it out. I'll put my name on it as, like, you know, plotted by both of us because I'll help you, you know, like, make sure the story works in terms of what Batman is doing. And, you know, Court of Owls, as I imagined it, you know, as the history of the society itself, and all those things track, but, you know, it's scripted by you, it's your series, and so I'm so proud of him and so excited about how good the series is, you know, and I would just say to everybody out there, if you want new blood in comics, like in mainstream comics, these are the kind of books that I would ask you to go support, because this is a guy who deserves a chance, just like everybody that wants to write comics, that works hard to do it, and he's just bringing it, you know, and I'm crazy proud of him. I really am. He's going to be, pretty soon, I'm sure he'll be, like, pitching for Batman, taking it over from me, right?
Now, between the Gates of Gotham and American Vampire, you definitely seem to have a real appreciation for history in your works. Where does that come from? Are you just a history buff? Is it something that you're schooled in? What sort of drives you to that story a lot?
You know, I've thought about that a lot. I mean, over the years, because I get asked that a couple times, and I don't really have an answer for it except to say that, you know, when I was a kid, my grandparents, who passed away actually just in the last couple of years, I was close to my maternal grandparents. You know, when I was a kid, they used to watch me a lot. I was very close to them, and they were both really avid antiquers. And my grandmother, one of the things that she would do was we would go through the house. She would show me antiques, and we would make up stories about where they had been and stuff like that. And I've always had this fascination with the ghost life of things that you have, you know. And growing up in New York City, Court of Owls is largely inspired by that notion of all the kind of history of the things, of the buildings and the apartments and the people that you can never know. Even though you know the facts about those things, you don't know the lives lived. And so similarly with these antiques and with kind of the idea of the lives lived in the city, I've always had this fascination with the kind of mysteries of the past, I guess. That's the best kind of way I can answer that in terms of, but it's in Superman too. Wait till you see in Man of Steel, or you know, it's untitled right now, but whatever we wind up calling it, the series I'm doing with Jim Lee, there's a lot of American history. There's sort of, you know, a lot of things that you'll see that I think hopefully you'll recognize my voice from the beginning.
Great. My last question was going to be what else you have coming up that we can look forward to. I guess you sort of answered that.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm doing a Superman series with Jim Lee, who's one of my idols, obviously. I'm like totally freaking out that I get to work with him. And I'm also doing a new Vertigo miniseries called The Wake. It's about 12 issues with Sean Murphy, who's a good friend and an incredible artist. And I mean, 2013, I can promise we're gonna bring it, man. In Batman, the stories coming up are our best stuff. Between Joker and the story we're doing after it, and the Superman series I'm doing with Jim, we're gonna make Superman badass. It's gonna be awesome. I really am like giving everything I got to it, and you know, with American Vampire in the Wake, we're really gonna try and bring stories to it that, you know, knock your socks off. So I just want to say thanks to everybody who picks up these books. It means the world to us.